This is an important day in the history of Columbia University. It's the day when we mark Columbia's entrance into Latin America, and specifically to Chile. Columbia is opening officially on this day and at this moment its Latin American Global Center in Santiago, Chile. This will make it possible for our faculty and our students to engage with Chilean students and faculty, to learn, to exchange ideas, to exchange visits, to collaborate on research and other kinds of projects. And it will make use of Chile's extraordinary resources, human and material. Chile is a country which, as you know, has served as a model for much of Latin America in economic management and in other ways. So it's entirely appropriate that we should locate our first global center in Latin America in a country that's so much talked about and so important to the rest of the region and to the United States. Our global center in Chile will operate not only to connect us to Chile, but because of Chile's presence throughout Latin America and because of its importance as a country, we will base many of the things we do in Latin America in other countries in our global center office in Santiago. None of this would have been possible without a number of key individuals. The first you will hear from in a few moments is the president of the university, Lee Bollinger, who several years ago decided, rather abruptly, some of us thought, that a university like Columbia had to engage the world and had to embark on a transition from being an American university with a global reputation to being a truly global university. And the global centers, as part of that strategy, have come to play an important part in the life of our university, and they will, I think, become more important as the years pass. The second person that I should acknowledge and who you will hear from shortly is Kenneth Prewitt. I knew Ken when he was president of the Social Sciences Research Council. He went on to become director of the U.S. Census Bureau. We haven't had as good numbers since. And he agreed to take on a task which Lee Bollinger assigned to him just 2 years ago, that of Vice President for Global Centers. And he is the animating spirit that has made it possible for us to make such enormous progress. Not only the Santiago Center, but also global centers that are now located in Paris, in Beijing, in Mumbai, soon to be inaugurated in Istanbul, in Nairobi. Have I left any out? Amman, Jordan, and today, Santiago de Chile. So I want to acknowledge Ken's presence, and you'll hear from him in a moment. Finally, I want to mention Pablo Bicato, who is professor of history and director of the Institute for Latin American Studies. What makes these global centers work is their connection to faculty back at the university, faculty and students. And what has been the principal presence of Latin America at Columbia for many years, 50 in fact, has been its Institute for Latin American Studies. So you will hear shortly from Pablo as well. Pablo is the second person on this panel that claims to have been born in Chile. But let me introduce the first. I first met Andronico Luksic some years ago at a small college north of here when he served on the advisory committee of what is called at Harvard the David Rockefeller Center for Latin American Studies. This was the advisory committee was composed of a number of very distinguished citizens of Latin America and the United States and elsewhere indeed, and was a committee full of firepower, great advice, and interesting ideas. But of all those who participated in this committee, the one who was the most focused, the most far-sighted, and indeed, in many ways, the most generous with his time and resources was Andronico Luksic. So I want to thank him for that, and also thank him for his willingness to join with Columbia in this new venture. He is, as we all know, a man of great vision, both entrepreneurial and philanthropic, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him back to Columbia University. Andronico.
Thank you very much. There's no doubt that John and I are very good friends. I appreciate very much that introduction. President Bollinger, Vice Provost Coatsworth, Embajador Rasuris, ambassadors. I'm proud to be part of this initiative, which will bring one of the most prestigious universities in the United States to Chile. The establishment of the Columbia Global Centers Latin America in Santiago is an endeavor that will undoubtedly benefit both the university and Chile. My role here is to be a facilitator, and I assure you that I am very happy to be only a facilitator, a partner in a broader project to contribute to the educational future and development of Chile. The choice that Colombia has made to locate its Latin America Global Center in Chile is a recognition of past accomplishments and a contribution to our future growth. It is my sincere hope that the center in Chile will likewise provide the students, alumni, and faculty of the university a place to discuss ideas, create networks, and foster the exchange of knowledge. I am proud to say that I followed my old friend John Coatsworth to New York from Cambridge, and I have found through him new friends and new opportunities to help shape the future of my country. Thank you, John. Thank you all. Thanks a lot.
And now Professor Pablo Picato, Director of the Institute for Latin American Studies.
Thank you very much. I would like first to clarify that I don't claim to have been born in Chile. I was born in Argentina, and it's not a claim. I can produce a birth certificate, but it's, I wouldn't mind, if the case was different. I came through Mexico, so one country sometimes is not enough. I just want to celebrate this occasion on behalf of ILAS, the Institute of Latin American Studies. We are a center that has about 150 faculty members affiliated to it, hundreds of students. We have a master's programs. We bring visiting professors. We encourage our faculty and students to go to Latin America. And, I think this is also something that we should celebrate, because as a historian, I see the circulation of ideas, people, and commodities as something integral to the history of the countries since independence, where they began to define each other in a relation, expanding into each other, but connecting as countries. And our ambitions as an institute and also as collaborators and friends of the Global Center is to facilitate the continuities of those networks of knowledge, of research that are so important here and in Latin America. As I said, we try to make everything possible to bring people to Latin America when they want to learn languages, but when they want to do research, even if the research is not only about Latin America. And obviously we receive people who come to the US to teach, to communicate and collaborate with other members of the faculty, and to use the resources of this great university, which is something very attractive for Latin America. I can speak in the name of historians, just going to our libraries is such a pleasure. So we know that these movements of people are not easy sometimes. They have a cost. It's not a symmetrical movement sometimes. So I think that the existence of the Global Center is very important to help us even the field and try to have a collaboration that will be yet even more meaningful, not only for the development of Latin American studies, but also for the growth of the university as a global university. So congratulations, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Pablo, for the footnote correcting my factual error. It must be your eloquence that made me confuse your birthplace. Now, Vice President Prewitt, Ken Prewitt.
When John said that we had the opportunity to open up a center in Chile, I took a deep breath because we were really very busy trying to swallow the ones we'd already started. And I was hesitant and that kind of stuff. And on the other hand, it's extremely important because we cannot be a global network until we're in Latin America. And you've now made that happen. So for the first time, we really can, very first time in the history of this project, we can say we're now a global network. We're just everywhere. But my hesitancies were just about the amount of work that had to be done. I'm a lazy kind of guy. And then in my office walked Karen Poniachik. And I said, my God, my problems are solved. We've got somebody already there who knows the place, enormously effective. And so I just felt like we were going to make a very major success very quickly. We will be up and running, and we already are up and running in Chile, so thank you, Karen. Just then, final, sir, I think back to the first point I wanted to make. As the President will say more eloquently than I can, the idea is really to create a new kind of university, which has a global presence. So it's not just a series of bilateral relationships with different parts of the world. It is getting all those parts of the world to talk to each other around the big global challenges that are facing us. We know those global challenges. I won't tick them off. Everybody has their own list. But we do know is that the knowledge base for looking at those things are sort of based in national units, regional units, Latin America, North America, Europe, Far East, and so forth. And until we figure out a way to create global knowledge, to talk about global issues, we will not do so well on those global issues. And so it's enormously exciting for Columbia University to be able to say publicly for the first time ever that we're now in the 7 major regions of the world, and we're really delighted. Thank you.
Now let me introduce President Bollinger. After his remarks, there will be a signing ceremony at the front of the room. We'll all sign the documents that will officially inaugurate this new global center in Santiago. President Bollinger.
Well, this is a truly great moment for us. And I want to say something very briefly about the thinking that brings us here and about the strategy that we at Columbia have adopted and about where I hope we'll go from here. Universities are amazing places. We have expertise on almost anything you can possibly think of. And people are already amazingly knowledgeable about parts of the world, including Latin America. So we have great experts on everything. Making sure that those experts are able to develop their expertise even further and to spread that expertise and to share it with others is a goal in itself for a university, and would be, I think, a sufficient justification for this new center in Santiago. But it so happens we have another reason, and the other reason is because of the phenomena of globalization. And it's a cliche, of course, to talk in terms of globalization at this stage, but I believe that every single one of us understands that there are forces at work in today's world that are creating an increasingly interdependent world, especially in the sphere of economic activity. And it's just no longer possible for anybody, whether you're an expert in Latin America or an expert on any other subject, it's just not possible any longer to think about your field in all probability unless you have a deeper knowledge of what is happening around the world. It's also extremely difficult to get that knowledge because this is not a case where you can simply go to the library or turn on your computer and read new books about it. The world has moved, in our view, faster. It is changing faster than our knowledge. And so we have to, in universities, figure out ways for us to catch up and to perform our great mission of doing research and education about things that matter to the world and to human beings. The global centers are our way of doing that. In one sense, they're simply offices with wonderful staff, connected technologically all around the world, but in another sense, they will make a profound difference for our faculty and our students and to the people that we interact with around the world through these centers as we provide ourselves with serious research and teaching to work on. Because it's really by being physically present and by working on serious problems and issues that we can then figure out the questions that need to be addressed in an academic way and then pursue them, both in our teaching and our research. Some universities are setting up branch campuses, some are setting up networks of universities, some are simply doing what they've been doing but trying to do it a little more. All those are fine. We're not doing the branch campus route. We're not doing some other routes. This is our route. And the function is exactly what you said we're trying to do. That is, we are at the university are trying to facilitate the opportunities for our faculty and students to work with local institutions and local and regional institutions and people, and then connect that in a global way on serious problems that matter. So it's a very, very important ambition, grounded, we think, in an understanding of the world and the relationship of universities to that world. And the last thing I want to say is that this requires, in every instance, because our resources at this university are so thin and needed for so many purposes we're pursuing all the time, we need to have friends and we need to have people to help us understand how to do this best. And you have done that now for us with Santiago, the first in Latin America and one of our opening experiments in this new global network of centers. You, Andronico, have enabled us to do this, and we are deeply, deeply grateful and hope you understand that we're dead serious about this, and we have what we think are profound reasons behind this, and so to accomplish it together with you will be a great, great goal and a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
And the next few minutes of absolute silence, but for the scratching of pens, will mark the point at which we officially inaugurate the center.